Good morning, brothers and sisters. Today is Friday, March the 19th. It is 9:06 in the morning. We're going to start off with the sound saying. Hope you can see me good. My lighting is off a little bit. Okay. Alright, we're going to start off with the sound saying coming from Isaiah 43:19. And it says, I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. The back of it is coming from Psalms 121:7. And it says, the Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. He will preserve you from all evil. He will preserve thy soul. So, for example, if you have someone around you that God deems to be evil, he will what? He will separate you two. He will cause something to happen. Okay? To remove that which is evil in the sight of God from around his saints or his servants, okay? And that same favor is a blanket over the families of his saints and servants, all right? And he is true and faithful to do this thing. He will always look after you, okay? All right, now we're going to be reading from, I don't know if we're going to get it all done, but the topic is about friendship. I don't like this light, Father. Okay, the topic is about friendship. So this is why we will be reading from 1 Samuel chapter 18. It's a very special friendship in this particular reading, and I believe my father thought it would be appropriate to read this. But before that, I took some notes yesterday regarding friends. Okay, what is a friend? Someone very special, someone who is unlike your brother. Your brother is born to for adversity, whereas your friend will love you all the time. Like Jesus, he loves you all the time, whether you're behaving well or not. Your friend is also someone who can be very honest with you. Your friend is a supportive person to you. Your friend, a true friend, will always say that to you that is difficult to say. Okay, this is your friend now. They will say that which is difficult to say. Your friend will be by your side when calamity comes your way. If they can't do anything but just sit there and be quiet because your issues or that which has come about onto you can be grievous, okay? So your friend or friends will show up during these grievous times, and they will moan with you. They will cry with you and weep with you. Cry and weep is the same thing. They will struggle with you. They will put sand on their heads with you, because why? They are going through whatever it is that you are going through. You will not go through all by yourself. And today, friendship like that is very, very difficult to find. Okay, today people do not know how to be a good friend. All right, so we're gonna review some of the things that a good friend would do. One of the things that a good friend would do is take interest. They will be interested in what's going on with you. Okay, so in 1 Samuel 18:1, it says, after David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. So your friend will love you like they love themselves. This is not the type of love that is easily cut. Okay? Why? Because this is your soul friend. Closer to you than some brothers and sisters. Okay? Their love for you will never fade. And their support with you will be consistent throughout your friendship. Okay? You can come to this person no matter what you've done. Okay? And they will guide thee. So they will take interest in you. All right? In 1.Sam.18, it says, and Jonathan caused David to swear again because he loved him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. In Job's 2, chapter 13, remember I said to you that your friend will come and moan with you, or they will come and rejoice with you. Okay, so in Job 13, at this particular time in Job's life, everything is falling apart. He has lost children, he has lost houses, he has lost cattle, and he has also lost his health. So let's see how Job's friends responded once they heard that has befallen their friend Job. Job 2:13. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days. I'm sorry, let me start with 12. I'm sorry, let me start with 11. Job's 2:11. Now, when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came everyone from his own place. Eliphaz the Temanite, and Baldar the Shuhite, and Zophar the Nemanite, for they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. Job 2:12. And when they had lifted up their eyes, so they were far away from him at this point, and they were getting closer and closer to where Job was sitting. And as they got a visual on the condition of their friend, this was their response. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept. That's what I'm saying. Your friends will cry with you. Your friends will go through the emotions with you. And these are genuine emotions. These are genuine tears. Okay? And when they lifted up their eyes afar off and knew him not, they lifted up their voices and wept, and they rent everyone his mantle. So yes, they tore their clothes when they saw their friend, because now he had boils all over him from his head to his toe. He was not recognizable to his 3 friends, okay? So their response was just as powerful as the condition that they found their friend in, and sprinkled dust upon their heads towards heaven. Okay, now let's take it to Job 2:13. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very, very great. Okay. A friend is a person that will sacrifice for you. In John 15:13, it says, greater love has no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friend. Now, who is our closest friend? Jesus Christ is our closest friend. It don't make no difference what religion you're with. Jesus Christ is the one that died for you. There is no other religion where there is a Father, Heavenly Father, and a Son combined together as joint. There's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So Jesus laid his life down for you, for me, and for every generation on earth. Okay, that is what a friend will do. Okay. A friend is also helpful. They will give you good and sound advice. When something is going wrong, they will give you sound advice coming from that which they know, that the words of God. They will give you always good advice. Okay? They will not sound like the world. All right. So he who is satisfied loathes his honey, but to the hungry soul any bitter thing is sweet. Yes, sometimes when the advice comes, it may be bitter, but it will be sweet unto the soul of a hungry friend. Okay. Valuable in time of need. Proverbs 27:10. Do not abandon your own friend and your father's friend, and do not go to your brother's house in the day of your disaster. Better is a neighbor who is near than a brother who is far away. So yes, sometimes your friend can be someone who lives nearby thee. And if sometimes something goes wrong in your life, your brother or your sister may be far away, but a good friend who's nearby, such as your neighbor, is just as good. All right? Always faithful. Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times. This is what I said to you. Your friend is not like your brother. Okay? And a brother is born for adversity. Your friend is not like your brother. Your friend will love you all the time. Love you enough to be honest with you. Love you enough to be concerned about you. Love you enough to come and see about you. Okay? Love you enough to rejoice with thee and moan with thee. Okay? Some friends are not good for you. There are dangers in having the wrong friend. Okay? What do? They can entice you to do things that are evil. Now, that's an evil friend. That type of friend is worthless. Worthless. Okay? May entice to sin. Deuteronomy 13:6. If your brother, the son of your mother, or your son or the daughter, or the wife you cherish, or your friend who is as precious to you as your own life soul, entice you secretly, saying, let's go and serve other gods, God whom neither you nor your fathers have known. This is a strange God who your parents, your generation of elders have not known. Well, this bad friend will entice you to come along and let's go and learn about this God and that God. That is not a good friend. That pulls you away from the real God, the only God, the sovereign God of this earth, of this world. Okay? That's a bad friend. Deuteronomy 13:7. Of the gods of the people who are around you, near you, or far from you, from one end of the earth to the other. So there are many, I'm using the lowercase God here. There are many fake gods. Okay? Don't walk away from the true holy God of Israel to go and worship a stone or a statue or any other thing that has replaced God in your life. All right? Some are necessary. The poor man is hated even by his neighbor, but those who love money or who love the rich have many friends. Okay? These are not true friends. This is why it's under the dangers of. Okay, your true friend will love you whether you are poor, and if God should raise you up and give you prosperity, that same loyal friend who loved you when you were penniless will be that same kind of friend to you when you become prosperous. Okay, so don't get new friends when your bank account suddenly swells. All right, you maintain your old friends. Always maintain your old friends because they will be your true friends. All right? Untrustworthy friends who are dangerous, who will entice you to do all kinds of monstrosity are untrustworthy. Okay, because they're not being your friend for the right reasons. All right. Psalms 41:9. Even my own close friend in whom I trusted, who I ate my bread, has lifted up his heels against me, betraying me. Okay, so be careful with who you select as your friend. And as soon as you see those red flags, you know that this person is not your friend. So what you should do, separate yourself from them. All right? Separate yourself from that which is evil in the sight of God. All right? Let's see what else we got here. Okay, I have another word that is quite important. Confidence. Confidence. When you have the real God, when you worship the real God, you have confidence in this God. You don't go about worrying about this and that, the other. Why? Because you put your trust in God. Okay? So if you have your trust in God, you have no need to be concerned, overly concerned about anything. Why? Because He is your closest friend. He is not just your God, He is your friend. And you should have confidence in Him. This is why you can put all of your trust in God. Not some of it, all of it. All right. Deuteronomy 7:18 says, you should not be afraid of them. You should remember with confidence what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all Egypt. That is your God. You can be confident that even in the midst of a coronavirus, that He will back you up. You can walk through an infestation of people who have coronavirus and come out at the other end without it. That is your friend who covers you. He puts a blanket over you so nothing can jump upon you. Remember, when He did what He did in Egypt, not one Israelite suffered. Whether it was the frogs, the lice, none of them came inside the homes of the Israelite. Not one. Even when the angel went about killing the firstborn of all the Egyptians, including the Pharaoh himself, not one Israelite lost a child or a cattle or anything. So God is your closest friend, the one you cannot see. He is worth your trust. All right? Convictions. This is something a lot of people don't have any convictions today, any moral foundation. Okay? A firmly held belief, view, through persuasion, idea, position, articles of faith, judgment of relating to characteristic of sacred things, the church, religion. These convictions you hold strong, okay? You do not let go of them for anyone. You do not let anyone convince you to pull away from God for any reason. All right? So you must hold fast to those beliefs that have been taught to you by your elders, by your parents, by their parents, by your elders who know God and teach you about God. You are not to forsake your elders' teaching for anything new, because they will teach you about the universal God of this world. Okay, who will always be your friend. Always. All right. So let's go to, okay. We're reading about a very special friendship in the biblical time between two very special individuals. One is named Jonathan, the son of Saul. Okay, and I'm sorry to say this, but sometimes you have to pull away from your family. But Jonathan was a very faithful son unto his father Saul. Okay? And sometimes that can be an unfortunate thing, to be faithful to your family, because sometimes they do not behave like friends. All right. So in this particular reading, which is 30 verses, we will not go through the 30 verses today. We will do the first 15 verses. And what does it talk about in chapter 18 of 1 Samuel? It talks about the friendship of Jonathan and David. Okay. Some people, let me say another thing to you, brothers and sisters. This is a worldly saying. It has no truth to it. Blood is thicker than water. It has no truth to it. None. Not even a little bit. Water is stronger than blood. Water is stronger than blood. You never see a flood of blood moving boulders and cars and boats, and you don't never see that, but you see water doing it. Just in Texas, you saw water coming in through the roof of people's houses into the house, tearing down the cabinets. You saw water moving cars, uprooting trees. And we need water as a nourishment. Okay, you could be in the desert and you may have blood in your body, but if you don't get some water in your body, death will become you. So water is stronger than blood. Okay, water is stronger than blood. And two good friends are bound by water. They are not bound by blood. This is why this friendship is closer. It's dependable. This is why these friends that are bound by water have a strong friendship. A friendship in which neither one of them will separate from each other. You can't say that about blood. Okay? So that worldly saying about blood is thicker than water is garbage. We are bound with Christ by water. Okay, so let's begin to read about and David's marriage to Saul's daughter Michal. All right, so let's get through the first 15. And it's 30 verses. There are no upper bold letterings, but there is a lot of yellow here. We will not get to the yellow part. There's a lot of green, black, brown, silver. So let's begin. Verse 1 to verse 7 is all green for love. Pay attention. I do not like this lighting, Father. All right, let's start. And it came to pass when he had made an end of speaking unto Saul that the soul of Jonathan was knit with the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. Verse 2, and Saul took him that day and would not let him go no more home to his father's house. Okay, so initially Saul fell in love with David himself, that he did not allow him to return back to his father's house. Okay. Verse 3, then Jonathan and David made a covenant because he loved him as his own soul. 4, and Jonathan stripped himself of the robe that was upon him and gave it to David, and his garment, even to his sword, and to his bow and his girdle. So this is the son's king, Jonathan, taking off his royal apparel and giving it to his friend David, who pleased his father so much. Gave him everything. His garment, his bow, his girdle. That's a friend. All right. We should be lucky that you have just one in a lifetime. Okay, and your friend will do nothing evil unto thee. Nothing. Your friend will not bed your wife, or your friend will not bed your husband. 5. And David went out whichsoever Saul sent him, and behaved himself wisely. And Saul sent him over the men of war, and he was accepted in the sight of all the people, also in the sight of Saul's servants. Okay, so he was well loved, not just by the king at the time, by all those in the kingdom. All right. 6. And it came to pass as they came, when David was returned from the slaughter of the Palestine, that the women came out of all the cities of Israel, singing and dancing to meet King Saul, and timbrels with joy and with instruments of music. 7. And the women answered one another as they played, and say, Saul has slain his 1,000 and David his 10,000. This particular verse right here is what made the king's blood boil. This is what started this jealousy rage within the king. This silly song sung by the women in his kingdom. A song. A song. And the women answered one another as they played, and said, Saul has slain his 1,000 and David his 10,000. 8. And Saul was very warped, and the saying displeased them. And he said, they have ascribed unto David 10,000, and to me they have ascribed but thousands. And what can he have more but the kingdom? Okay. 9. And Saul eyed David from that day and forward, because of that silly song. All right. So let's take it from here, from 1 to 9, just to make sure you get a good understanding of what's just been read in the old school Bible. After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. Verse 2. From that day Saul kept David with him, and did not let him return to his father's house. 3. And Jonathan made a covenant with David, because he loved him as himself. 4. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic and even his sword, his bow, and his belt. 5. Whatever Saul sent him to do, David did it so successfully that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. They pleased all the people and Saul's officers as well. 6. When the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the Goliath, the women came out from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul, with singing and dancing, and with joyful songs, and with tambourines and lutes. 7. As they danced, they sang, Saul has slain his 1,000 and David his 10,000. 8. Saul was very angry. This refrain galled him. They have credited David with 10,000, he thought, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom? 9. And from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. And didn't I tell you yesterday that jealousy can be a terrible emotion indeed? It can make you do the most monstrosities. Even today, when you get someone who is highly jealous of you, you'll be surprised at what they will do to you. Be very careful on selecting your friends. Okay, let's continue. 10 is brown for Satan. And it came to pass on the morning that the evil spirit from God came upon Saul, and he prophesied in the midst of the house, and David played with his hand as at other times, and there was a javelin in Saul's hand. 11 to 13 is black for sin. And Saul cast a javelin, for he said, I will smite David even to the wall with this. And David avoided out of his presence twice. 12. And Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with him, and was departed from Saul. 13. Therefore Saul removed him from him and made him his captains over 1,000, and he went out and came in before the people. 14 is blue for salvation, And David behaved himself wisely in all his ways, and the Lord was with him, and the Lord was with David. The Lord literally was with David. And if God is with you, who can be against you? Who do you have to fear? No one. No one. Even the king and all his men did not put any fear in the heart of David. Okay? Why? Because God hid him well. 15. Wherefore, when Saul saw that he behaved wisely, himself very wisely, he was afraid of him. 16 is love. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he went out and came in before them. Okay. Let's read 9 to 16 and we'll stop there. And from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David. 10. The next day, an evil spirit from God came forcefully unto Saul. He was prophesying in his house while David was playing the harp, as he usually did. Saul had a spear in his hand, and he hurled it, saying to himself, I'll pin David to the wall. But David eluded him twice. 12. Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David, but had left Saul. 13. So he sent David away from him and gave him command over 1,000 men. And David led the troops in their campaign. 14. In everything he did, he had great success because the Lord was with him. 15. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. 16. But all Israel and Judah loved David because he led them in their campaign. Okay. So David, despite the fact that the king chased after him, chasing him like a criminal, during this whole time, David had nothing but love for the king. So the king was chasing after his very own friend. Okay, and didn't I tell you, a friend will not stop loving you, even when you are doing that which is wrong and evil. He will maintain his love for you. And in the rest of the chapter, we will find how David shows his king love. Okay? So be mindful. Select your people wisely, because not everybody that shows you their teeth is your friend. And the closest friend we all have, his name is Jesus. And the closest Father we all have that loves us more than our earthly fathers, his name is God. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Please have a wonderful day. Please be careful. Please remember to be kind and gentle to all those you meet. And just be mindful of the people you surround yourself with. Thank you for listening to us here at Spiritual Water. My name is Brenda Guerrero, and as always, may the peace of God be upon you. May the protection of God surround you, and may the will of God for your life be manifested. Have a wonderful day.